Thunder's paws scraped frantically against the forest floor, dirt flying in all directions as the German Shepherd dug, with an intensity Nathan Walker had never witnessed before. The morning sun filtered through the towering pines of Rocky Creek Valley, casting dancing shadows across the disturbed earth, where something metallic glinted beneath decades of accumulated soil and fallen leaves. Nathan approached slowly, his weathered hands pushing aside low-hanging branches as he studied his companions. Unusual behavior. Thunder had always been intuitive, but this obsessive digging at this specific spot seemed different, urgent, almost desperate. When Nathan knelt beside the excavation, his breath caught in his throat. The metallic fragment wasn't the discarded beer can or old farming equipment he'd expected to find in these remote Colorado mountains. The distinctive curve and thickness of the metal, along with what appeared to be traces of military green paint still clinging to its surface, suggested something far more significant. This looked remarkably like a piece of armored plating from a World War II tank, buried here in a valley where no military records indicated any such equipment had ever operated. Thunder whined softly and pawed at Nathan's sleeve, as if urging him to understand the magnitude of their discovery. The veteran's heart raced as possibilities flooded his mind, each more incredible than the last. Please support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Nathan Walker had sought refuge in Rocky Creek Valley 5 years ago, drawn by its isolation and the promise of peace that had eluded him since returning from overseas service. The modest log cabin he'd built with his own hands sat nestled against a backdrop of towering evergreens, its wraparound porch offering panoramic views of untouched wilderness that stretched for miles in every direction. Here, surrounded by nature's quiet majesty, he'd found the solitude necessary to heal wounds that ran deeper than any physical injury. His days followed a comfortable rhythm of chopping wood, tending his vegetable garden, and taking long hikes through terrain that challenged both body and spirit. The nearest neighbor lived over 10 miles away, and the closest town was a 40-minute drive down winding mountain roads that became impassable during heavy snow. This isolation wasn't accidental, but carefully chosen, a sanctuary where nightmares couldn't follow and memories of distant conflicts gradually faded into background whispers. Nathan had always possessed an amateur archaeologist's curiosity about the past, spending countless hours reading about ancient civilizations and lost treasures during quiet evenings by the fireplace. His small library contained volumes on everything from Roman ruins to Viking settlements, and he'd often wondered what secrets might lie buried in the American wilderness. The Rocky Creek Valley had a mysterious history of its own, with local legends speaking of strange lights seen during the war years and unexplained government activity in the remote mountain passes. Old-timers in town occasionally mentioned supply convoys that had passed through during the 1940s, heading to destinations that remained classified even decades later. Nathan had dismissed these stories as typical small-town folklore until Thunder's discovery began to suggest that perhaps some legends contained kernels of truth waiting to be unearthed. Thunder wasn't just Nathan's companion, but his partner in the truest sense, a relationship forged through mutual respect and shared experiences that transcended the typical bond between human and animal. The German Shepherd had arrived at Nathan's doorstep 3 years earlier, a young dog bearing scars that suggested his own difficult past, and the two had recognized something kindred in each other's eyes. Nathan had trained Thunder with military precision, teaching him commands that went far beyond basic obedience to include tactical signals, terrain assessment, and threat detection. The dog's natural intelligence combined with this specialized training had created an almost supernatural ability to read environments and anticipate dangers before they materialized. During their wilderness expeditions, Thunder consistently demonstrated an uncanny knack for navigation, often leading Nathan away from unstable ground, aggressive wildlife, or sudden weather changes with an accuracy that bordered on prescient. The German Shepherd could detect subtle changes in wind patterns that signaled approaching storms, identify the sounds of distant rock slides before they became audible to human ears, and sense the presence of large predators from distances that seemed impossible. Their communication had evolved into an intricate system of gestures, expressions, and vocalizations that allowed them to coordinate activities with the efficiency of a well-trained military unit. Thunder's protective instincts extended beyond mere loyalty to encompass a deep understanding of Nathan's emotional state, providing comfort during difficult nights and companionship during long, solitary days. Rocky Creek Valley held secrets that locals whispered about but rarely discussed openly. Stories passed down through generations about mysterious activities during the war years, when government convoys regularly traversed the mountain passes under cover of darkness. Some claimed to have seen strange lights moving through the forest, while others reported the sounds of heavy machinery operating in remote locations where no construction projects were known to exist. Thunder's behavior had grown increasingly erratic over the past week, repeatedly returning to this same spot with a determination that bordered on obsession. The German Shepherd would pace the perimeter of the area, whining softly and pawing at the ground before beginning another bout of frantic digging. His usual appetite had diminished as he became fixated on this mysterious location, sometimes refusing meals to maintain his vigilant watch over the disturbed earth. Nathan had initially dismissed the behavior as typical animal curiosity, perhaps the scent of some long-buried carcass or interesting rodent burrow. However, Thunder's persistence and the intensity of his focus suggested something far more significant than mere canine instinct. The dog's training and proven track record of detecting important environmental changes convinced Nathan that this obsessive behavior deserved serious investigation rather than casual dismissal. When Nathan made the decision to trust Thunder's instincts completely, he gathered basic excavation tools from his workshop and prepared for what he assumed would be a simple digging operation to satisfy both their curiosity. The veteran approached the task methodically, using a small shovel to carefully remove layers of accumulated soil and organic debris. As he worked, Thunder maintained a watchful position nearby, occasionally contributing to the effort by pawing away loose dirt, but primarily serving as an alert sentry. The deeper Nathan dug, the more convinced he became that Thunder had detected something genuinely significant buried beneath decades of forest accumulation. The metallic fragment's emergence felt like vindication of the German Shepherd's persistent instincts, and Nathan realized this discovery might be the beginning of an adventure that would challenge everything he thought he knew about his peaceful valley sanctuary. Nathan and Thunder worked together for hours, the veteran's military methodicalness combining with the German Shepherd's enthusiastic assistance as they gradually revealed more of the buried object. With each shovelful of removed earth, the scope of their discovery expanded exponentially, revealing not just isolated metal fragments, but what appeared to be the intact remains of an entire armored vehicle. The distinctive angular lines and thick steel plating that emerged from the soil bore unmistakable characteristics of a World War II-era Sherman tank. Its olive drab paint still visible in protected areas, despite decades of burial. Nathan's hands trembled with excitement and disbelief as he brushed away dirt from what appeared to be a serial number plate, the raised digits still clearly readable after all these years. This wasn't just any discarded military equipment, but a complete M4 Sherman medium tank, somehow transported to this remote Colorado valley and deliberately concealed beneath tons of carefully arranged earth and vegetation. The preservation was remarkable, suggesting that the burial had been methodical and purposeful rather than accidental or hasty. Thunder seemed to understand the magnitude of their discovery, his earlier frantic energy replaced by a more focused intensity as he carefully patrolled the expanding excavation site. The German Shepherd's behavior suggested he sensed something more than just buried metal, perhaps detecting traces of human activity or other materials that remained hidden. Nathan's mind raced with questions about how such a massive piece of military hardware had arrived in this isolated location. who had taken the enormous effort to bury it so completely, and most importantly, why it had been hidden here in the first place. The tank's presence in Rocky Creek Valley made no sense according to any historical records he knew, as no military bases or training facilities had ever operated in this region. Yet here was undeniable evidence that significant wartime activity had occurred in his peaceful sanctuary, activity important enough to justify the monumental task of concealing a 30-ton armored vehicle. Thunder's continued agitation suggested their discovery was far from complete, and Nathan began to suspect that the tank itself might be just the beginning of whatever secrets lay buried in the valley's depths. Nathan realized he needed expert assistance to properly understand and document their extraordinary discovery, and his thoughts immediately turned to Dr. Rebecca Stone, a respected historian at the nearby university who specialized in World War II-era research. Rebecca had published several well-regarded papers on wartime activities in the American West and had earned a reputation for her meticulous attention to historical detail and her ability to uncover overlooked connections in military records. Nathan had met her the previous year at a local historical society meeting, where she delivered a fascinating presentation about secret government operations during the war, making her the perfect person to help interpret their find. When he called to explain the situation, Rebecca's immediate excitement and insistence on visiting the site that very afternoon confirmed Nathan's instinct that this discovery was historically significant. She arrived with professional excavation equipment and cameras, her academic enthusiasm infectious as she examined the partially revealed tank with obvious amazement. Alongside Rebecca came an unexpected addition to their investigative team in the form of Lucy Martinez, a remarkably intelligent 12-year-old girl who happened to be visiting her grandparents in the valley. Lucy's father had been one of Nathan's army buddies who'd tragically died in a car accident 2 years earlier, leaving the girl in the care of her maternal grandparents, who lived just a few miles down the mountain road. The girl possessed an insatiable curiosity about history and adventure stories, qualities that had drawn her to Nathan's cabin when she heard rumors of an exciting discovery. Despite her youth, Lucy demonstrated a sharp intellect and natural investigative instincts that made her a valuable addition to their small team. Thunder seemed particularly protective of the girl, perhaps sensing her vulnerability or recognizing a kindred spirit in her enthusiasm for exploration. Rebecca was initially hesitant about including a child in what might be a significant archaeological investigation, but Lucy's genuine interest and surprising knowledge of World War II history eventually won over the adult members of the team. Nathan found himself enjoying the girl's company, her youthful energy and endless questions, reminding him of positive aspects of family life that he'd forgotten during his years of isolation. The moment they managed to pry open the tank's main hatch, Nathan knew their discovery had transcended from historically interesting to potentially earth-shattering. Inside the crew compartment, hidden beneath what appeared to be deliberately placed camouflage materials, lay a sophisticated storage system that had clearly been installed after the tank's original construction. Waterproof containers lined specially constructed shelves, their contents preserved in pristine condition by the dry mountain air and careful sealing. The documents they found were unlike anything Nathan had expected: detailed military maps, encrypted communications, personnel files marked with the highest security classifications, and what appeared to be operational plans for activities that had never appeared in any declassified historical records. Rebecca's excitement was palpable as she carefully photographed each item, her academic training evident in the methodical way she documented every aspect of their find. Nathan's military experience helped him interpret some of the tactical notations and unit designations, while Rebecca's historical knowledge provided context for the political and strategic implications of what they were uncovering. Lucy proved surprisingly helpful in organizing and cataloging their finds, her young eyes often noticing details that the adults had overlooked in their excitement. Thunder remained vigilant throughout the process, his behavior becoming increasingly alert as they delved deeper into the tank's hidden compartments. The German Shepherd seemed particularly interested in Rebecca's activities, watching her with an intensity that made Nathan slightly uncomfortable, though he couldn't quite identify why. The documents painted a picture of wartime activities in the American West that differed significantly from official histories, suggesting that the government had used remote locations like Rocky Creek Valley for operations that required absolute secrecy. As afternoon faded into evening, Nathan realized they had stumbled upon something that could potentially rewrite portions of World War II history, but he also began to sense that their discovery might attract unwanted attention from parties who preferred these secrets to remain buried. Over the following days, Nathan began noticing subtle changes in the valley's normal patterns that set his military-trained instincts on high alert. Unfamiliar vehicles appeared sporadically on the distant mountain roads, their occupants using binoculars to observe the cabin and surrounding area with an interest that seemed far too intense for casual tourists or hikers. These observers maintained careful distances but displayed a professional surveillance methodology that reminded Nathan uncomfortably of intelligence operations he'd encountered during his military service. The strangers who occasionally approached their excavation site claimed to be independent researchers, amateur historians, or antique collectors, but their questions were too specific and their knowledge too detailed for their cover stories to be entirely credible. Thunder's reaction to these visitors was uniformly hostile, the German Shepherd's hackles rising whenever the strangers appeared, his protective instincts clearly identifying them as potential threats despite their friendly demeanor. Nathan trusted Thunder's judgment implicitly, knowing that the dog's training and natural instincts rarely failed to identify danger accurately. The veteran began taking precautions, installing motion-activated cameras around the excavation site and varying his daily routines to make surveillance more difficult for potential watchers. His military experience had taught him to recognize the signs of organized intelligence gathering, and everything about these mysterious visitors suggested they represented interests far more sophisticated than curious academics or treasure hunters. Rebecca seemed oblivious to the potential security concerns, her academic excitement overriding any consideration of possible dangers associated with their discovery. She continued photographing and documenting every aspect of their find with obvious enthusiasm, frequently making phone calls to colleagues and uploading digital images to her university accounts, despite Nathan's growing concerns about operational security. Lucy, with the perceptiveness of youth, noticed the tension building around their investigation and began asking questions about the strange people who kept appearing near their excavation site. Thunder's protective behavior toward both Rebecca and Lucy intensified as the mysterious observers became more frequent, the German Shepherd positioning himself strategically to maintain visual contact with all team members while keeping watch for approaching strangers. Nathan's attempts to report their discovery through official channels proved frustratingly ineffective, with local law enforcement dismissing the find as historically interesting, but not requiring immediate government intervention. The county sheriff suggested contacting the State Historical Society, while the Historical Society recommended involving federal agencies that seemed uninterested in pursuing the matter with any sense of urgency. Phone calls to military archives and Veterans Affairs offices resulted in endless transfers between departments, bureaucratic delays, and requests for documentation that Nathan couldn't provide without compromising the security of their site. The lack of official interest struck Nathan as suspicious given the potential significance of their discovery, and he began to suspect that certain government departments might already be aware of the tank's existence and preferred it to remain undisturbed. His growing frustration with bureaucratic indifference, combined with Thunder's obvious agitation about the mysterious surveillance, convinced Nathan that they needed to pursue their investigation independently. Rebecca supported this decision, arguing that academic freedom required them to thoroughly document their discovery before involving government agencies that might classify or restrict access to historically important materials. Lucy enthusiastically embraced the idea of conducting their own investigation, her youthful imagination fired by the prospect of uncovering secrets that had remained hidden for decades. Nathan established their small team as an unofficial research group, with each member contributing unique skills to their collective effort. His military experience providing tactical expertise and security awareness, Rebecca's academic credentials lending scholarly credibility to their work, Lucy's fresh perspective often revealing overlooked details, and Thunder serving as their early warning system for potential dangers. They developed protocols for documenting their discoveries, securing sensitive materials, and maintaining operational security in the face of obvious external interest in their activities. Nathan's cabin became their unofficial headquarters, its remote location and defensible position making it ideal for planning their next moves while staying alert for signs of unwanted attention. The decision to proceed independently felt both exciting and dangerous, but Nathan's instincts told him that whatever they had discovered was too important to abandon simply because official channels proved unresponsive or potentially compromised. The investigation team's breakthrough came when Rebecca discovered a detailed schematic hidden beneath the tank's ammunition storage compartment, revealing the existence of an extensive underground tunnel system that stretched throughout Rocky Creek Valley like an enormous spiderweb. The hand-drawn maps showed multiple entry points concealed throughout the mountainous terrain, connecting to a central hub that appeared to be located directly beneath the valley's deepest point. Nathan studied the military-style notations with growing amazement, recognizing symbols and tactical markings that indicated this wasn't simply a storage facility, but a fully operational underground base designed to support significant personnel and equipment. The scale of the operation depicted in these documents suggested that Rocky Creek Valley had served as far more than a simple waypoint during the war years, but rather as a crucial nerve center for activities that had required enormous resources and absolute secrecy. Thunder seemed particularly interested in the maps, sniffing at the aged paper with obvious recognition, as if the sense still clinging to the documents triggered memories or instincts that he couldn't quite articulate. Rebecca's expertise in wartime logistics helped the team understand that constructing such an elaborate underground network would have required months of work by specialized engineering units, along with massive amounts of concrete, steel, and other materials that would have been extremely difficult to transport to such a remote location without attracting attention. The documents indicated that the tunnel system had been designed with multiple escape routes, suggesting that its builders anticipated the possibility of discovery or attack. Lucy's sharp eyes noticed details that the adults had initially overlooked, including what appeared to be updated notations made in different ink, suggesting that the facility had remained active well beyond the end of World War II. Nathan realized that if these maps were accurate, they had stumbled upon one of the most significant undiscovered military installations in American history, a find that could potentially reveal classified operations that had remained hidden for over 70 years. Using the maps as guides and Thunder's exceptional tracking abilities, the team located what appeared to be the primary entrance to the tunnel system, concealed within a natural cave formation approximately 2 miles from the tank burial site. The cave mouth was partially hidden by carefully arranged boulders and overgrown vegetation that looked natural but showed subtle signs of human manipulation upon closer examination. Thunder approached the entrance with obvious excitement, his tail wagging and ears perked forward as he detected scents or sounds from within the cave that weren't apparent to his human companions. Nathan's military training kicked in as he assessed the tactical situation, noting that the entrance provided excellent cover and concealment while offering multiple escape routes through the surrounding rocky terrain. Rebecca documented everything with her camera. Her academic excitement barely contained as she realized they were about to enter a piece of living history that had remained untouched for decades. Lucy volunteered to test the air quality by lowering a lit candle into the entrance, demonstrating the kind of practical thinking that had made her such a valuable team member despite her age. Thunder confidently led the way into the tunnel system, his enhanced night vision and acute hearing making him the perfect scout for their underground expedition. The German Shepherd moved with purpose and confidence, clearly following scent trails or other sensory information that guided him through passages that branched in multiple directions. Nathan followed closely behind Thunder, using a powerful flashlight to illuminate their path while maintaining tactical awareness of potential dangers or ambush points. The tunnel construction was remarkably sophisticated, with reinforced concrete walls, electrical conduits that suggested the installation of lighting systems, and drainage channels designed to prevent flooding during heavy mountain rains. Rebecca marveled at the engineering expertise required to construct such facilities in such a remote location, while Lucy contributed by sketching rough maps of their route to ensure they could find their way back to the surface if necessary. The team's exploration led them to a vast underground chamber that exceeded even their most optimistic expectations, revealing a fully equipped military installation that appeared to have been abandoned suddenly but left largely intact. The main chamber stretched over 200 feet in length and nearly 50 feet in height, with branching corridors that disappeared into darkness in multiple directions. Rows of heavy-duty storage racks lined the walls, many still containing wooden crates marked with military designations and warning labels that made Nathan's blood run cold. Thunder immediately began investigating the various scents in the chamber, his behavior indicating the presence of materials that triggered his trained responses to chemical or explosive substances. Rebecca's flashlight revealed workstations equipped with sophisticated communications equipment, map tables covered with tactical charts, and filing cabinets that promised to contain documentation of whatever operations had been conducted in this hidden facility. The level of preservation was extraordinary, with the dry mountain air and controlled temperature maintaining materials in near-perfect condition despite decades of abandonment. Lucy discovered a section that appeared to have served as living quarters, complete with bunk beds, personal lockers, and a recreational area that suggested this facility had housed personnel for extended periods. Nathan's military experience helped him identify various pieces of equipment and their probable functions, including radio gear that was far more advanced than anything he'd expected to find from the World War II era. The presence of certain technologies suggested that this facility had remained operational well into the Cold War period, potentially serving multiple generations of classified operations. Rebecca began photographing everything systematically, her academic training evident in the way she documented the layout and contents of each area they explored. Thunder's alertness increased significantly as they ventured deeper into the facility, his body language indicating that he detected something the humans couldn't perceive, possibly sounds or scents from areas they hadn't yet explored. The German Shepherd's training had taught him to recognize signs of human presence, and his behavior suggested they might not be alone in the underground complex. Nathan decided they should retreat and regroup before venturing further, but their discovery had already confirmed that Rocky Creek Valley held secrets far more significant than anyone had imagined. Their exploration was interrupted when Thunder suddenly froze, his ears pricked forward and his body rigid with attention as he detected sounds from deeper within the tunnel system that weren't audible to human ears. Nathan immediately recognized the German Shepherd's alert posture and signaled for silence, his military training taking over as he assessed their tactical situation and possible escape routes. The sounds that Thunder detected gradually became apparent to the others. Footsteps, voices, and the mechanical noises of equipment being operated somewhere in the depths of the underground facility. Rebecca and Lucy looked to Nathan for guidance, their academic excitement replaced by genuine concern as they realized their exploration had potentially brought them into contact with unknown individuals who might not appreciate their presence. Nathan quickly led the team back toward the entrance they had used, but Thunder's behavior indicated that their retreat route might be compromised by the approach of other people. The German Shepherd guided them through an alternate passage that appeared on their maps as an emergency exit, his exceptional navigation skills proving invaluable in the maze-like tunnel system. As they moved through the underground corridors, Nathan caught glimpses of artificial lighting in passages they hadn't explored, confirming that the facility was indeed occupied by parties unknown. The voices they occasionally heard spoke with accents that Nathan couldn't immediately identify, but their professional demeanor and tactical communications suggested military or intelligence backgrounds. Rebecca whispered urgently about the historical significance of encountering people who might have connections to the original operations conducted in this facility. But Nathan's security concerns overrode academic curiosity. Lucy stayed close to Thunder, instinctively trusting the German Shepherd's protective instincts and following his lead through passages that seemed designed for emergency evacuation. The team emerged from the tunnel system through a concealed exit nearly a mile from their original entry point, their underground expedition having revealed far more than they had anticipated. Nathan realized that their discovery had attracted the attention of individuals who were already familiar with the facility and might have been using it for purposes that weren't necessarily legal or authorized by current government agencies. When the team finally made it back to Nathan's cabin, they discovered clear evidence that their property had been searched during their underground expedition, with subtle signs of professional surveillance and evidence gathering that confirmed Nathan's worst fears about the attention their discovery had attracted. The mysterious individuals who had been observing their activities were clearly more than curious academics or treasure hunters, but rather representatives of organizations with significant resources and sophisticated operational capabilities. Thunder immediately began patrolling the cabin's perimeter, his aggressive stance and constant alertness indicating that he detected signs of ongoing surveillance or potential threats in the surrounding forest. Nathan conducted a thorough security sweep of his property, discovering evidence of electronic surveillance devices and noting that certain items in his cabin had been moved or photographed by their uninvited visitors. Rebecca's academic materials and photographs of their discoveries had been copied, suggesting that whoever had searched the cabin possessed both the technical capability and the authority to conduct such operations without fear of legal consequences. Lucy was visibly shaken by the realization that their adventure had attracted dangerous attention, but she remained determined to continue their investigation despite the obvious risks. Nathan's military instincts told him that they were dealing with a situation that had escalated far beyond amateur historical research and now involved parties with serious stakes in keeping certain information concealed. The veteran decided that their team needed to prepare for more direct confrontation with whoever was determined to control access to the secrets hidden beneath Rocky Creek Valley. Thunder's protective behavior intensified as evening approached, the German Shepherd positioning himself strategically to monitor all approaches to the cabin while remaining ready to alert his human companions to any signs of immediate danger. That evening, as Nathan was reviewing their findings and planning their next moves, his phone rang with a call that would change everything about their situation and reveal the true stakes of their discovery. The voice on the other end was cold, professional, and carried the unmistakable accent of Eastern Europe, introducing himself as Viktor Kozlov and claiming to represent interested parties who had been monitoring their activities with great interest. Viktor's tone was polite, but carried an underlying threat as he explained that Nathan and his team had discovered materials that belonged to his organization and needed to be returned immediately to avoid unfortunate consequences. The caller demonstrated intimate knowledge of their discoveries, their team members, and even personal details about their backgrounds that could only have been obtained through extensive surveillance and investigation. Nathan's military training helped him remain calm during the conversation, but Victor's casual mention of Lucy by name sent chills down his spine and made it clear that this was no longer simply about historical artifacts or academic research. Victor demanded a meeting to discuss the return of materials that Nathan's team had discovered, with the obvious implication that refusal would result in escalated pressure on all team members. Thunder sensed Nathan's tension during the phone call and positioned himself protectively nearby, his instincts clearly identifying the conversation as a source of potential danger. When Nathan ended the call, he immediately contacted Rebecca and arranged for Lucy to stay with her grandparents while the adults dealt with what was clearly becoming a dangerous situation involving organized criminals or foreign intelligence operatives. The realization that their archaeological discovery had attracted the attention of international criminal organizations transformed their adventure into a matter of national security with potentially deadly consequences. Victor's phone call had made it clear that the secrets buried in Rocky Creek Valley were valuable enough to kill for, and Nathan began preparing for a confrontation that would require all of his military training and Thunder's exceptional capabilities to survive. Nathan spent the sleepless night developing a rescue strategy that combined his military tactical training with Thunder's exceptional reconnaissance abilities, knowing that any direct confrontation with Victor's organization would require precision, timing, and the element of surprise to succeed. The German Shepherd seemed to instinctively understand the gravity of their situation, his behavior shifting into full combat readiness as he patrolled the cabin's perimeter with heightened alertness and barely contained aggression. Nathan studied the topographical maps of Rocky Creek Valley, identifying key terrain features that could provide tactical advantages during a rescue operation, including the network of caves, hidden paths, and elevated positions that offered both concealment and fields of fire. Thunder's intimate knowledge of the local terrain would be crucial, as the dog had explored areas of the valley that remained unmapped and could navigate through wilderness that would challenge even experienced hikers. The veteran prepared his equipment methodically, selecting weapons, ammunition, survival gear, and communications devices while maintaining the disciplined mindset that had served him well during previous combat operations. Rebecca had agreed to coordinate with local law enforcement and attempt to establish contact with federal agencies, though Nathan suspected that official help would arrive too late to be useful in rescuing Lucy from immediate danger. Thunder demonstrated remarkable understanding of the tactical situation, responding to Nathan's hand signals and verbal commands with precision that reflected their years of training together in wilderness environments. The German Shepherd's enhanced senses would provide early warning of ambushes. His stealth capabilities would enable reconnaissance of enemy positions, and his loyalty would ensure that he never abandoned his human companions, regardless of the dangers they faced. Nathan felt confident that their combined skills gave them a fighting chance against Victor's organization, though he understood that success would depend heavily on maintaining operational security and avoiding direct confrontation until they could rescue Lucy and escape to safety. The veterans' planning included multiple contingency scenarios, escape routes, and communication protocols designed to maximize their chances of survival while minimizing risks to innocent civilians who might become involved in the conflict. As dawn approached, Nathan and Thunder prepared to embark on a mission that would test every skill they had developed during their partnership and determine whether their bond was strong enough to overcome professional criminals with superior numbers and resources. Thunder's reconnaissance abilities proved invaluable as he led Nathan through treacherous mountain terrain toward the remote canyon location that Victor had specified for their confrontation, his acute senses detecting potential ambush sites and hidden surveillance positions that would have been invisible to human observation. The German Shepherd moved with fluid grace across rocky slopes and through dense forest, pausing frequently to test wind directions and listen for sounds that might indicate enemy activity in the surrounding wilderness. Nathan followed Thunder's lead with complete trust, knowing that the dog's training and instincts had never failed them during previous expeditions in dangerous terrain or hostile environments. The approach route Thunder selected avoided obvious trails and maintained maximum concealment while providing elevated observation points that allowed Nathan to assess Victor's tactical dispositions without exposing their own position to enemy surveillance. Through his binoculars, Nathan observed a sophisticated operation that included multiple armed personnel, communications equipment, and what appeared to be professional military or intelligence operatives rather than typical criminal organizations. Victor's team had established defensive positions that demonstrated tactical expertise and suggested backgrounds in special operations or similar high-level military training, making them far more dangerous opponents than Nathan had initially anticipated. Thunder's behavior indicated that he detected additional personnel positioned in concealed locations throughout the canyon, confirming Nathan's suspicion that Victor's organization possessed resources and capabilities that exceeded those of ordinary criminal enterprises. The German Shepherd's intelligence allowed him to map enemy positions through scent detection and sound analysis, providing Nathan with tactical intelligence that would have required hours of dangerous reconnaissance by conventional military units. As they moved closer to Victor's position, Thunder's alertness increased dramatically, his body language indicating that he sensed something significant about their opponents, or the situation that wasn't immediately apparent to Nathan's human senses. The veteran realized that Thunder's exceptional abilities would be their primary advantage in the coming confrontation, as conventional military tactics would be insufficient against enemies who possessed similar training and superior numbers. Nathan's confidence in their mission depended heavily on Thunder's capacity to anticipate threats, navigate dangerous terrain, and execute complex tactical maneuvers that would allow them to rescue Lucy and escape before Victor's organization could respond effectively. When Nathan finally located the cave system where Victor was holding Lucy, the sight that greeted him through Thunder's guidance was far more complex and emotionally devastating than he had prepared himself to encounter during their rescue planning. Victor Kozlov stood beside a small figure that Nathan immediately recognized as Lucy, but the criminal's demeanor suggested confidence and knowledge that went beyond simple kidnapping tactics or routine criminal behavior. The international operative smiled with cold satisfaction as he noticed Nathan's approach, clearly having anticipated this confrontation and prepared psychological weapons that would prove more effective than physical threats or violence. Victor's revelation came like a physical blow that staggered Nathan's emotional equilibrium and threatened to undermine his tactical focus during this crucial moment in their rescue operation. The criminal explained with obvious pleasure that Lucy Martinez wasn't simply an innocent child who had accidentally become involved in their archaeological discovery, but rather Nathan's own granddaughter, the daughter of James Martinez, Nathan's son who had been given up for adoption decades earlier when Nathan's post-war psychological trauma had made him incapable of maintaining family relationships. Victor had conducted extensive research into Nathan's background and discovered the painful truth that Nathan himself had tried to forget. His inability to cope with civilian life after military service had led to the dissolution of his marriage and his decision to allow his infant son to be adopted by a loving family, rather than subject the child to his own psychological struggles. James Martinez had grown up never knowing his biological father's identity, eventually starting his own family before dying in the tragic car accident that had left Lucy in her grandparents' care. Victor's organization had uncovered these connections through sophisticated intelligence gathering and had deliberately manipulated events to bring Nathan and Lucy together, knowing that discovering their family relationship would provide powerful leverage during any confrontation. Thunder sensed Nathan's emotional turmoil and positioned himself protectively between his master and Victor, the German Shepherd's instincts recognizing the psychological attack, even if he couldn't understand the specific details of Victor's revelation. Nathan struggled to process the information while maintaining tactical awareness, his military training warring with overwhelming emotions as he realized that the child he had grown to care for during their archaeological adventure was actually his own flesh and blood. Victor continued his psychological assault by describing in detail how Nathan's abandonment of his family had led directly to the circumstances that put Lucy in danger, using guilt and shame as weapons designed to break Nathan's resistance and force his cooperation. The emotional impact of learning Lucy's true identity transformed Nathan's approach to the rescue operation from a mission of moral obligation into a desperate fight for family redemption and survival. Nathan's realization that he was facing his granddaughter's captor while confronting his own failures as a father and family man created a psychological complexity that threatened to overwhelm his tactical thinking and compromise his ability to execute an effective rescue. Victor clearly understood the psychological dynamics he had created and pressed his advantage by offering Nathan a choice between saving Lucy's life and protecting the historical secrets they had discovered in Rocky Creek Valley. The criminal explained that his organization needed the documents and maps from the underground facility to complete operations that had been decades in planning, and that Lucy's safety depended entirely on Nathan's willingness to provide full cooperation without resistance. Thunder remained focused on the immediate tactical situation, despite Nathan's emotional crisis, his training and loyalty providing stability and purpose that helped anchor Nathan's psychological state during this overwhelming revelation. Nathan realized that Victor's manipulation had been carefully planned to maximize psychological pressure and minimize his capacity for effective resistance. But his granddaughter's presence gave him strength and determination that transcended his personal guilt and self-doubt. The veteran forced himself to compartmentalize his emotions and focus on the tactical requirements of rescuing Lucy, knowing that successful completion of their mission would provide opportunities for family reconciliation and healing that failure would forever eliminate. Victor's confidence in his psychological manipulation had created tactical vulnerabilities that Nathan could exploit if he maintained operational focus and trusted Thunder's abilities to overcome superior numbers through superior planning and execution. Nathan made the conscious decision to use his newfound knowledge of Lucy's identity as motivation rather than distraction, channeling his protective instincts and parental responsibilities into tactical energy that would fuel their rescue operation. Thunder seemed to sense Nathan's psychological transformation and adjusted his own behavior accordingly, preparing for combat operations while maintaining protective positioning around both Nathan and Lucy. The German Shepherd's loyalty and tactical capabilities would be crucial in overcoming Victor's advantages in numbers and position, but success would ultimately depend on Nathan's ability to function as both a tactical operator and a grandfather determined to save his family. Nathan's tactical situation became exponentially more complex when Dr. Rebecca Stone emerged from the shadows of Victor's cave stronghold, her academic facade completely abandoned as she revealed her true role as Victor's intelligence operative and the primary source of information that had enabled the criminal organization to monitor and manipulate their archaeological discovery from its very beginning. Rebecca's betrayal struck Nathan like a physical blow as he realized that every photograph she had taken, every document she had copied, and every conversation she had recorded had been transmitted directly to Victor's organization, providing them with detailed intelligence about the underground facility and its contents. The historian's academic credentials and enthusiastic participation in their research had been an elaborate cover story designed to gain Nathan's trust and provide her with unlimited access to their discoveries while maintaining complete operational security for Victor's surveillance operation. Rebecca's presence with Victor confirmed Nathan's growing suspicion that their archaeological adventure had been manipulated from the beginning by parties with sophisticated intelligence capabilities and long-term strategic objectives that extended far beyond simple criminal activity. Victor smiled with obvious satisfaction as he observed Nathan's shock at Rebecca's betrayal, clearly enjoying the psychological impact of revealing how completely his organization had penetrated and controlled their research activities from the very beginning. Rebecca attempted to justify her actions by explaining that her initial involvement had been motivated purely by financial considerations and academic opportunities, but that Victor's methods had proven more extreme and violent than she had anticipated or agreed to support. The academic's obvious discomfort with the current situation suggested that she retained some moral boundaries, despite her willingness to engage in espionage and betrayal, potentially creating opportunities for Nathan to exploit divisions within Victor's organization. Thunder maintained his protective positioning while assessing Rebecca as both a potential threat and a possible asset, his tactical intelligence recognizing that her knowledge of Victor's plans and capabilities could prove valuable if she could be convinced to switch sides during the confrontation. Nathan realized that Rebecca's presence complicated his rescue planning, but also provided potential advantages if he could successfully manipulate the psychological dynamics between Victor and his increasingly reluctant operative. Rebecca's transformation from Victor's accomplice to reluctant ally began when she witnessed Victor's casual threats against Lucy, and realized that her academic greed had made her complicit in endangering an innocent child whose only crime had been curiosity about historical mysteries. The historian's moral awakening was triggered by her recognition of Lucy's vulnerability and her growing understanding that Victor's organization represented something far more sinister than the sophisticated antiquities smuggling operation she had initially believed herself to be supporting. Rebecca's academic background had not prepared her for the reality of criminal violence, and Victor's increasingly explicit threats against a 12-year-old girl forced her to confront the ethical implications of her choices and the potential consequences of her continued cooperation. Nathan recognized the psychological shift in Rebecca's demeanor and began subtle efforts to encourage her moral transformation, appealing to her obvious affection for Lucy and her growing discomfort with Victor's methods. Thunder seemed to sense the changing dynamics between the adults and adjusted his positioning to account for Rebecca's potential shift from enemy to ally, though he maintained tactical readiness to respond to threats from any direction. Victor observed Rebecca's wavering loyalty with obvious displeasure, his threats becoming more direct as he reminded her of the consequences of betraying an organization with international reach and sophisticated retaliatory capabilities. Rebecca's decision to actively assist Nathan came when Victor made explicit threats to harm Lucy if she didn't immediately provide the access codes and technical expertise needed to retrieve the remaining documents from the underground facility. The historian's expertise in wartime communications protocols and her knowledge of Victor's operational plans made her assistance invaluable for Nathan's tactical planning, as she could provide intelligence about enemy capabilities and intentions that would be impossible to obtain through reconnaissance alone. Nathan recognized that Rebecca's transformation from enemy to ally created opportunities to divide Victor's forces and exploit internal conflicts within the criminal organization, though he remained cautious about trusting someone who had already demonstrated willingness to engage in betrayal and deception. Thunder's protective instincts extended to include Rebecca once she began actively assisting their rescue efforts, though the German Shepherd maintained heightened alertness for signs of additional deception or tactical betrayal. Rebecca's knowledge of Victor's communication systems and escape routes would prove crucial for their tactical success, but Nathan understood that her cooperation would need to be constantly verified and protected through careful operational security. The ultimate revelation of Victor's true identity and motivations came when Nathan successfully cornered the criminal leader and forced him to explain the real purpose behind his organization's interest in the Rocky Creek Valley archaeological discovery. Victor's composed facade finally cracked under tactical pressure, as he revealed that the underground facility contained far more than World War II-era military equipment and classified documents about conventional warfare operations. The buried tank and its associated tunnel system had served as a secure repository for one of the war's most closely guarded secrets. A comprehensive list documenting the identities, locations, and operational status of Nazi intelligence operatives who had successfully infiltrated American society and remained undetected throughout the post-war period. Victor's organization wasn't simply interested in historical artifacts or military equipment, but rather in protecting the descendants and associates of war criminals who had escaped justice by assuming new identities and integrating into American communities across the country. The criminal revealed that his real name was Klaus Weber, and that he was the grandson of Hauptsturmführer Heinrich Weber, a high-ranking SS intelligence officer who had orchestrated the infiltration network before disappearing into the American Witness Protection System in exchange for providing intelligence about Soviet operations during the early Cold War period. Victor's family had lived under assumed identities for 3 generations, building legitimate businesses and social connections while maintaining secret contact with other Nazi descendants who shared their interest in preventing historical accountability for war crimes committed decades earlier. The documents hidden in Rocky Creek Valley represented an existential threat to dozens of families whose prosperity and social standing depended on concealing their ancestors' participation in genocide and crimes against humanity. Victor explained that his organization had spent years tracking down and eliminating evidence of Nazi infiltration operations, using criminal enterprises to fund their activities while maintaining the appearance of legitimate international business operations. Nathan realized that their archaeological discovery had inadvertently uncovered one of the most significant intelligence coups in modern American history, with implications that extended far beyond academic research into the realm of international justice and historical accountability. Victor's desperation to recover and destroy the documents explained the sophisticated surveillance, professional operational planning, and willingness to commit violence that had characterized his organization's response to their discovery. Thunder's aggressive protective behavior throughout their encounters with Victor now appeared even more appropriate, as the German Shepherd's instincts had correctly identified not just criminal activity, but actual evil that threatened both immediate safety and broader social justice. The final confrontation between Nathan and Victor took place in the depths of the cave system, where the criminal had established his operational headquarters, with Thunder serving as both tactical support and moral anchor during a battle that represented the intersection of personal redemption and historical justice. Victor's revelation of his Nazi heritage had transformed their conflict from a rescue operation into a symbolic struggle between the values Nathan had fought to defend during his military service and the evil that his granddaughter's captor represented through family legacy and personal choice. Nathan's combat experience and tactical training were essential for surviving Victor's desperate attempts to eliminate witnesses and escape with the incriminating documents. But Thunder's exceptional capabilities provided the decisive advantage that enabled them to overcome superior numbers and defensive positioning. The German Shepherd's courage and intelligence were demonstrated when Victor attempted to use explosive devices to collapse the cave system and eliminate all evidence of the hidden facility, forcing Thunder to navigate through dangerous terrain and locate alternate escape routes while protecting both Nathan and Lucy from falling debris and toxic gases. Victor's final desperate gambit involved threatening to detonate charges that would kill everyone in the cave system unless Nathan agreed to destroy the Nazi infiltration documents and allow the criminal organization to escape without prosecution or exposure. Thunder's tactical intervention came at the crucial moment when Victor's attention was focused on Nathan, allowing the German Shepherd to attack with precision and effectiveness that neutralized the immediate threat while preserving the historical evidence that would ensure justice for decades of concealed war crimes. Nathan's realization that Thunder had been wounded during the final confrontation created a moment of crisis that tested both his tactical priorities and his emotional bonds with the companion who had made their success possible. Victor's death during the struggle represented not just tactical victory, but symbolic justice for the countless victims of Nazi persecution whose suffering had been concealed and dishonored by the infiltration network that Victor's family had worked to protect. Nathan's successful rescue of Lucy and preservation of the historical documents fulfilled both his personal mission as a grandfather and his broader responsibility as a veteran who had sworn to defend American values against enemies both foreign and domestic. Thunder's heroism during the final battle demonstrated the exceptional character and capabilities that had made him an ideal partner for Nathan's journey from isolation to family reconnection, with their shared courage and loyalty providing the foundation for victory against overwhelming odds. The immediate aftermath of Victor's defeat revealed the full scope of the criminal conspiracy and its implications for both Nathan's family and American society as a whole, with Thunder's survival and recovery serving as a symbol of resilience and hope, despite the serious injuries he had sustained during their underground battle. Nathan's medical training enabled him to provide emergency care for Thunder's wounds, while coordinating with Rebecca to secure the Nazi infiltration documents and ensure that Victor's remaining associates were captured or neutralized before they could escape or retaliate. Lucy's emotional response to Thunder's injuries demonstrated the depth of attachment she had developed to both her grandfather and the German Shepherd, who had risked his life to protect their family, creating bonds that would define their relationships for years to come. The cave system's partial collapse had trapped several of Victor's operatives while preserving the most important areas of the underground facility, ensuring that federal investigators would have access to decades of classified materials that would revolutionize understanding of post-war intelligence operations. Nathan realized that their adventure had evolved from archaeological curiosity to family reunion to historical revelation, with each phase building upon the previous discoveries to create a narrative that validated both personal courage and broader social responsibility. Thunder's gradual recovery from his injuries provided a focal point for family healing and community recognition of the exceptional service that both veteran and dog had provided in protecting American security and historical truth. Rebecca's cooperation with federal investigators helped ensure that Victor's criminal network was completely dismantled while establishing her own path toward legal redemption and continued scholarly contribution to understanding wartime intelligence operations. The discovery of the Nazi infiltration documents would eventually lead to congressional investigations and international cooperation in identifying war criminals who had escaped justice, giving broader meaning and historical significance to Nathan and Thunder's personal journey toward family reconciliation and community service. 1 month after their harrowing underground confrontation with Victor's criminal organization, Thunder had made a complete recovery from his injuries and emerged as the undisputed hero of Rocky Creek Valley, his courage and intelligence celebrated by residents who had followed the dramatic story through national media coverage. Nathan watched with quiet pride as his German Shepherd companion adapted to his newfound celebrity status while maintaining the loyal, protective nature that had made their partnership so successful during months of dangerous investigation and ultimate confrontation with international criminals. Lucy had officially moved in with her grandfather, transforming Nathan's once solitary cabin into a vibrant family home filled with the sounds of youth, laughter, and the daily activities of a girl discovering her heritage and building relationships that had been denied to previous generations. The federal investigation triggered by their discovery had validated every aspect of their archaeological findings, while revealing the full scope of the Nazi infiltration network that Victor's family had worked decades to conceal from historical accountability and legal prosecution. Thunder's exceptional service had been formally recognized by both local and federal authorities, with commendations that acknowledged his crucial role in protecting American security interests and ensuring that justice could finally be served for war crimes that had remained hidden for over 70 years. Nathan found himself adjusting to grandfatherhood with the same methodical approach he had applied to military service and wilderness survival. Though Lucy's energy and curiosity required different skills than combat operations or archaeological investigation. The Rocky Creek Valley had been transformed from Nathan's private sanctuary into a site of national historical significance, with the underground facility designated as a federal monument that would preserve and interpret the complex legacy of wartime intelligence operations for future generations. Lucy's presence had given Nathan's life new purpose and direction, channeling his protective instincts and survival skills into nurturing and education rather than isolation and self-protection. Thunder served as the bridge between grandfather and granddaughter, his intuitive understanding of both their needs and his protective devotion to their family, creating bonds that transcended the trauma and separation that had characterized previous generations. Dr. Rebecca Stone had embraced her opportunity for redemption by establishing and directing the Rocky Creek Valley Historical Museum and Research Center, dedicating her academic expertise and professional reputation to educating the public about the complex moral challenges faced by intelligence operations during wartime and post-war periods. Rebecca's transformation from Victor's reluctant accomplice to committed advocate for historical truth had been facilitated by her genuine remorse for endangering Lucy and her recognition that scholarship carried moral responsibilities that extended beyond academic advancement or financial gain. The museum she created served multiple purposes: preserving the physical artifacts and documents recovered from the underground facility, providing educational programs that helped visitors understand the historical context of wartime intelligence operations, and supporting ongoing research into Nazi infiltration networks that had operated throughout North America. Lucy had become Rebecca's most enthusiastic volunteer, her natural curiosity and direct connection to the discovery making her an effective interpreter for school groups and family visitors who needed help understanding the complex historical and moral issues revealed by their archaeological adventure. Nathan appreciated Rebecca's efforts to make amends for her earlier betrayal, while recognizing that trust would need to be rebuilt gradually through consistent demonstration of integrity and commitment to truth rather than personal advantage. Thunder had eventually accepted Rebecca's presence in their extended family circle, though he maintained a protective awareness that reminded everyone involved that loyalty and trust were earned through actions rather than words or intentions. The museum's success had brought positive attention to Rocky Creek Valley while providing economic opportunities for local residents who had been struggling with the challenges of rural isolation and limited employment prospects. Rebecca's academic connections had attracted researchers from universities throughout North America, creating a scholarly community that supported both historical investigation and local economic development. Lucy's role as junior historian and museum guide had given her confidence, purpose, and skills that would serve her well regardless of whatever career path she eventually chose to pursue. Nathan found satisfaction in watching both Rebecca and Lucy develop their potential while contributing to causes larger than personal advancement or individual fulfillment, validating his belief that meaningful purpose could emerge from confronting rather than avoiding complex moral challenges. Thunder's formal recognition as an honorary K-9 officer of the Rocky Creek Valley Sheriff's Department represented the community's appreciation for his exceptional service, while acknowledging his ongoing role as protector and guardian of both his family and the broader community that had embraced their story. The ceremony honoring Thunder had drawn visitors from across the region, including veterans organizations, law enforcement agencies, and historical societies that recognized the broader significance of his contribution to uncovering and preserving important aspects of American wartime history. A bronze statue of Thunder had been installed at the museum entrance, depicting the German Shepherd in his characteristic alert posture, with an inscription that read, "True heroes protect not only those they love, but also the truth that ensures justice for all." Nathan had been moved by the community's recognition of Thunder's service, though he understood that his companion's greatest satisfaction came from the daily routines of family protection and companionship, rather than public acclaim or formal recognition. Lucy had insisted that Thunder's statue include a plaque acknowledging his role in reuniting their family and demonstrating that courage and loyalty could overcome the barriers created by history, misunderstanding, and deliberate deception. The German Shepherd seemed to understand that his celebrity status carried responsibilities as well as privileges, accepting the attention of visitors and school groups while maintaining his primary focus on Nathan and Lucy's safety and happiness. Thunder's presence at community events and educational programs had made him an effective ambassador for both veteran services and responsible pet ownership, demonstrating the positive impact that well-trained animals can have on individual and community well-being. Nathan recognized that Thunder's public role had given their story broader meaning and social impact, transforming personal healing into community inspiration and historical preservation. The bond between Nathan, Lucy, and Thunder had become a symbol of resilience, redemption, and the possibility that broken relationships could be healed through courage, truth, and mutual commitment to values larger than individual comfort or security. Standing on his cabin porch as autumn painted the Rocky Creek Valley in brilliant colors, Nathan watched Lucy and Thunder explore the forest trails that had once provided him with solitary refuge, but now offered shared adventures and family memories that enriched rather than replaced his connection to the natural world that had facilitated his healing and growth. The veteran reflected on the remarkable journey that had begun with Thunder's mysterious digging and culminated in family reunion, historical revelation, and community transformation that exceeded anything he could have imagined during his years of isolation and self-imposed exile from human connection. Their story had demonstrated that some discoveries were worth the risks they entailed, and that courage and loyalty could overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable when confronted alone, but became manageable when faced with the support of true companions who shared commitment to truth and justice. Nathan realized that his military service had prepared him for this civilian mission in ways he hadn't understood until circumstances demanded that he apply combat skills to protecting family and preserving historical truth rather than completing assigned tactical objectives in foreign lands. Thunder's exceptional capabilities had been essential to their success, but the German Shepherd's greatest contribution had been his unwavering loyalty and protective devotion that had anchored Nathan's emotional stability during periods of extreme stress and moral complexity. Lucy's presence in their lives had given both Nathan and Thunder new purpose and direction, transforming their partnership from mutual survival and companionship to family protection and nurturing that engaged different aspects of their personalities and capabilities. The challenges they had overcome together had created bonds that transcended the typical relationships between human and animal, veteran and community, or grandfather and granddaughter, establishing connections based on shared values and mutual respect rather than convenience or circumstance. The profound truth that had emerged from their extraordinary adventure could be summarized in a simple recognition that Nathan shared with visitors who came to hear their story. Loyalty doesn't just uncover buried secrets, but also heals broken connections, creating family from the scattered pieces of destiny. Their experience had proven that loyalty could indeed uncover buried secrets while healing broken connections and creating family from the scattered pieces of destiny, validating the belief that courage and commitment could transform personal tragedy into community inspiration and historical preservation. Share with us about the most loyal friend in your life, whether that's a person or a dog like Thunder. Stories of loyalty always deserve to be told, and can inspire others who are searching for meaning and connection in their own lives. Sometimes the most powerful bonds are formed not through easy times, but through shared challenges that test our commitment to one another and reveal the true strength of relationships built on mutual trust and protection. Subscribe to our channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories about the friendship between veterans and their loyal four-legged companions. Each story brings valuable lessons about courage, sacrifice, and unconditional love that we can learn from and apply in our daily lives. These tales remind us that healing is possible, that isolation can be overcome, and that sometimes the most unexpected discoveries lead to the most meaningful transformations in our lives. The next story is waiting for you right on your screen with other adventures full of emotion and meaning. Join us as we explore more special connections between humans and animals, journeys from trauma to healing, and the power of love in overcoming all difficulties. We extend our deepest gratitude to all veterans and their families, the true heroes among us, along with the loyal animal companions who have walked alongside them in their journey to rediscover life's meaning and purpose. Their stories of service, sacrifice, and redemption continue to inspire and remind us of the values that make us stronger as individuals and as a community united by shared respect for courage and loyalty.